The end of World War I, in addition to the racial problems we previously discussed, saw an intensified paranoia about communism. Not surprising, because consider what had just happened in Russia, right? The fall of the Tsar, the rise of the Soviet Union. So there was a big Red Scare, the first really big Red Scare. There would be others. This one in particular was very well illustrated in a series of raids authorized by the Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer in 1919 and 1920, called the Palmer Raids. But it wasn't Palmer who was personally overseeing the whole thing. It was a young officer from the Justice Department who had set up a special division called the Radical Division. 24-year-old J. Edgar Hoover. This is where he enters into our narrative, is leading these raids with federal officers targeting particularly unions and immigrants. And over the course of a few months, they arrested more than 5,000 people without warrants. No habeas corpus. They weren't charged with anything in particular. They were just thrown in jail. This was so extreme that even the public that had been terrified about the Red Scare and the communists sort of backed off from the federal government's response. It seemed to be overkill. And so eventually it was pulled back. However, this was a big setback for radicals in general and the labor movement in particular, which had made a lot of advances in the previous 20 years and now started to instead lose a lot of support. Some of the classes I teach of this course, I show a movie called Matewan, and we'll talk later about Matewan and the coal mining wars of West Virginia. But there's one scene in particular, I may try to find a clip of it and put it up here, in which the Baptist preacher is preaching, and he says, "The devil walks among us. In Bible times, his name was Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, but today he is known as Bolshevist, Socialist, Communist, Union Man, and he walks among us." And that really kind of summed up the attitude a lot of people were starting to develop toward the labor movement, conflating them with communism and socialism.